Hello, my name is Kirioth, and today we are going to have a little chat about what seems to be a complete lack of Christmas battle forces. Earlier this morning I got sent a few pictures of the catalogue that is sent out around this time for Games Workshop when they show up in stores and stuff, and there was a distinct lack of Christmas battle forces within those pages, and it looks like we're not getting any this year. So if you're not familiar, the Christmas battle forces that Games Workshop do are larger boxes, bigger than like Start Collecting or Combat Patrols, that are themed around a certain thing for each army. So, I mean, I got the Caradron Overlord one, I think was it last year or the year before? I think it might have been the year before now, actually. That's quite bad. I ended up selling what was left of that box because I didn't get around to any of it. Not the best purchase, but there you go. But it was also one that like had the Imperial Fists in there as well, complete with the transfers and all that stuff, and they tend to be pretty decent value, kind of more themed boxes that we have every single year. To be honest, it can be interesting going through and seeing what you get from each one. There tends to be a few repeat offenders where we get the of course Space Marine offering pretty much every single time, but there's been a bit of a tradition of it, so to speak, and that has stopped this year. Now there's obviously a lot of different reasons that this could be the case. To be honest, I'm kind of stuck between two thoughts, really. The first being that it is probably simply a supply chain issue. Games Workshop have had real issues for quite a while, I mean, due to COVID. More than anything due to COVID, where there's just been products that have been delayed over and over again. There was that big, like, 3 or 4, was it a 3-month window, where there was just no new releases whatsoever. They've had issues for quite a while. Things like models being produced in relatively low numbers for the initial launch and then having to wait for the next batch to be sent out, that kind of thing. It's been ongoing, and so you can kind of understand if they've decided that this year they're just not going to bother with it. Like, if they're already behind, which I think they've kind of caught up to where they're supposed to be just about, but if you've already had a bunch of delays over the last, like, year and a half, the added pressure of putting those boxes together and putting them out is not something that you really need to deal with, especially when things are still a bit ropey and there's still issues getting hold of certain things and having stuff sent out. If the whole supply chain situation is still rough, adding to that with these kind of Christmas-only battle forces is not going to help anything. It's just going to make things more tricky. And it does look like they're just not a thing like this year. I've not seen anything to suggest that there's like another catalogue or anything like that. It looks like we're just not getting that. But, to be honest, a little part of me wonders if we're just not going to get them back. Which, I know probably seems a bit pessimistic. I mean, generally speaking, I tend to go for the more, I wouldn't say positive, more like hopeful approach. Kind of, it's like halfway between skeptical and hopeful, where I generally think it's better to see what happens instead of jump to massive conclusions and, you know, immediately write something off because we don't know exactly what it's like. But in this specific situation, I don't know, something makes me feel like perhaps we're not going to see them come back, which might seem a little bit odd, but the battle forces are effectively just another way of getting a discount on buying multiple models at the same time through the different boxes that Games Workshop does. So if you buy one of those boxes that's got 2 different armies in facing off, you will spend, you know, far less than if you bought all the contents of that box separately. Same thing with Combat Patrol, same thing with Start Collecting. It's just another way of getting people in. You pay less to start with, and then once you have to actually expand your army and specialise in certain areas, then you start really shelling out the cash for the extra stuff you need to make the force that you want. And the battle forces generally tend to be really good value for money in terms of compared to buying the stuff separately. As always, we're comparing Games Workshop products to Games Workshop products. We're not comparing them to other miniature manufacturers because they're not great value compared to anyone else. But like in terms of that specific comparison, the battle forces are decent. They tend to give a good saving. The thing is, just for some reason, and I can't shake it, and it's probably completely illogical and doesn't make any sense, but I feel like the Combat Patrols basically are the middle ground. They're the middle ground between the Start Collecting and the Battle Forces. The Combat Patrols have been slowly expanding, and they will continue to expand as Games Workshop updates and brings out codexes and the like. They're trying to make that the go-to, which makes sense because it's a good way of starting people out. it gives a fairly significant discount, but it gives everything at the same standard, so you end up with the same number of points, and it's just an easier, simpler way of doing things overall, and just part of me feels like, given there's been a general push towards producing more boxes overall, and given how the combat patrols kind of bridge that gap between the larger battle forces and the smaller start collectings, they might just decide that it's easier to just focus on getting those combat patrols sorted and getting those out, and those just being the constant standard without having other larger boxes show up that kind of muddy the waters and make everything, I guess, just a bit more extra work for a bit more of a discount to the customer. The thing is, do they even want to give that kind of extra discount to the customer, or do they just want to get everyone on the same kind of standard, the same sort of level playing field in terms of entering the hobby, and paying what you pay for what you get in terms of a set number of points for each force? I don't know why that's kind of stuck in my head, but that's it, I guess. I guess I just wouldn't be surprised if they didn't come back, which I guess is kind of, I don't know, not rare for me. Normally I'm kind of, I err on the side of optimism, but I just wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see them return after the, like, with them not being available this year. It just wouldn't shock me. I would see it as like another move towards simplifying things a little bit for Games Workshop, which they've kind of indicated quite clearly that's kind of what they're going for overall these days. But yeah, I'd be interested to know what you think. Do you think it is just this year? Do you think it's something that's going to be a permanent change? And if so, why do you reckon they might do that? Let me know in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click if you don't want to. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games, which you can use to support the channel if you would like. There's also an affiliate link for Noble Knight Games for those of you in the US. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.